Hello guys, so I welcome you to this lecture 2 of the introductory course on C++. In this lecture, we'll deal about, we'll deal with data types in C++. Okay, so different types of data types that we come across in C++. Okay, and then we'll also learn about constants and variables. Okay, now let's uh, let's start with data type. So what is a data type? Okay, so a data type is something which is used to signify that which kind of data we are dealing with. Okay, let's suppose in real life we deal with a lot of different types of data. Okay, we deal with decimal values. Okay, 10.56, this is also a data, right? It is a data in the form of decimal value. We deal with integers like 1 2 3 5. Okay, -2, -3. Okay, 0. Okay, so we deal with integers as well. Then we also deal with you know uh, set of character, let's say names, right? Name of a place like Delhi. Okay, then USA. So these are strings. Okay, these are strings. And we deal with boolean values. Boolean values is true or false, whether something is true or whether something is false. Okay, so these are called as boolean values. We also deal with characters. Let's suppose alphabet characters, right? A, B, small b. Okay, these small alphabets, large alphabets, and digits like 1 2. Digits come, these numerical, numbers come in integer only. So yeah, these are the different types of data that we deal with in real life. So data type is something which signify which type of data it is. So if we are declaring an integer, if we are trying to work with integer variables, so we will write int in front of them. Okay, let's see. Okay, so data types. So first example will be an integer type of data. Okay, integer type of data. How we how we work with integer data. So what we do, whenever we try to create an integer variable. Okay, let's suppose we are trying to create a variable by name x. Okay, and it is having value 5. Okay, so how we will declare this variable? Okay, so we'll write int, then we'll give the name of the variable, which is x obviously, and then we'll equal to, we'll give it the value. Okay, so 5 is the value, and then end it with semicolon. Okay, this semicolon signifies the end of the statement. End of statement. Okay, end of statement. Now we are done with integer data type. The second data type that we deal with is float. Okay, uh, sorry. So to store decimal values, we use float. Okay, we use float. So how we declare a decimal variable. Let's say we want to store a value 10.56 into a variable named x. Okay, so we will write it this way. Okay, we'll write it float. Okay, x is equal to 10.56, and lastly we will end it with semicolon. Okay, this is how we store a decimal value inside a variable. Now to store a string variable, we have to create, okay, a string. To store a string could be a name of a place like Delhi, like USA. It could be my Gmail address. Okay, so Priyansh @gmail, okay, .com. But we enclose it with double quotes. Okay, we enclose it with double quotes. Anything in between double quote, let's say ABC. Okay, this one more, let's say one more example, ABC, then space, and then DEF, and then double quote. So anything in between double quotes is a string. Okay, so how we declare a string, how we store a string into a variable. let's say we want to store a string abc in a variable, so we will write string, then we'll give the name of the string. Let's say I name it as name. Okay, let's suppose it is my name. Okay, so I'll write Priyansh. Okay, and double quote, and lastly we will end it with semicolon. Let's again write it below. Okay, string name, to store the name. Okay, Priyansh. Okay, yeah, and lastly I'll end it with semicolon. So this is how we store a string value inside a variable. Okay, the name of the variable is name here only. Okay, now the third type of data type that we deal with is character data type. Okay, character data type is used to store values like a, b, c, or small a, small b, small c, or special symbols. Okay, so character, how we declare it when we are writing a program. So example would be something like this: we write char, then we give the name. Let's say name is uh, you can name anything, okay, variable, but I'll name it simply a. Okay, I'll store capital A here. Okay, you can also store something like this. Okay, small a inside it. It is creating, confusion, but there is no need to confuse. Okay, this is the name of the character variable, and this is the value it is going to store. Okay, so on the left hand side, this is the name of the variable, this is the type of data which the variable is going to store. So character type of data is being stored in this variable named a, and this is the value, this is the value of the variable. Okay, value. So what is a structure? Okay, so I'll tell you at this thing at the end. Okay, so the last type of variable, not the last, but yeah, these are the common data types that we deal with while, you know while we are writing program. So it is boolean. Okay, now I already told you that boolean is used to store true false value. Okay, whether something is true, whether something is false. So let's say example would be bool, uh, is he tall. Let's say this variable I created to know if someone is tall or not, and if I give it a value false, that means he is not tall. Okay, tall could be anything. The you know the condition of tall could be anything. I'm just talking about the variable. Okay, so this is the name of the variable, which is he tall. This is the type of data that is going to store, that it is going to store. So boolean type of data it is going to store, and the value is false. Okay, so he is not tall. Okay, whoever he is, he signifies. So now finally what I was trying to tell you was that I forgot that, but let's try to remember. Okay, so yeah, whenever we, whenever we give a value to a string variable, it will always come within the double quotes. Okay, and finally the semicolon, abc, or in whatever in between, it will always be enclosed with the double quotes. And whenever we write, whenever we uh, declare a character variable, it will be always enclosed in between single quotes. Okay, like this. And finally, let me tell you something. Whatever kind of, uh, you know I'll tell you the syntax. So first is the data type. Okay, data type, then the name of variable, name of variable. Okay, then finally value. Okay, so this is the syntax of declaring a particular variable. So data type, this is the data type char, this is the name of the variable, and this is the value. Okay, this is how we declare a variable in C++. Okay, now we are done with the data types. Now let me tell you about the constants and variables. So constants and variables. Now what are constants and what are variables? If you are familiar with math, if you have math as your subject, you would know that there are some things, okay, uh, some values that are not changed. Okay, that are constant. Let's suppose we take the value of pi, it remains 3.14, or 22 by 7, we also write it as 22 by 7, but it remains 3.14, although it is non-terminating, but it is 3.14. Okay, it is not going to change like pi changes to 3.87 something. No, it's not going to happen. It remains 3.14 all the time. So this is why pi is a constant. Okay, so to, if we declare a variable, okay, let's say we declare an integer variable int a is equals to 5. Okay, now we want this variable to be constant. Okay, we want it to be constant throughout the program. So what we will do is that we write it this way: const int a is equals to 5. This const signifies that this variable named a is a constant. Okay, and its value cannot be altered throughout the program. If we try to change the value of the variable to some other value, let's say 10, so upon executing the program, it will give us error. Okay, variables on the other hand are the values that can be altered. Let's say initially we had the value x is equals to 5. Let's declare it. Okay, int x is equals to 5. Now if we wish to change it, we can change it this way. We do not need, first time when we are trying to define the variable, we have to give it the data type. When we want to change the variable, we just write it this way. Okay, if the variable is already initialized in this case. Okay, so yeah, this was all about variables. Okay, and no two variables of no two different variables different variables should have the same name. Okay, no two different variable should have the same name. What I'm telling here is that if we declare a variable int a is equals to, and if we give it a value 10, we declare an integer variable a and we give it the value as 10. Okay, now if we try to create another variable with the same name a, okay, and of different data type, and if we give it a value, some value, okay, let's say pre I give it. Okay, so upon executing, this will give us error. Why is it so? Because already the name of the variable is taken, okay, by some other variable, so you cannot use the same name to declare another variable. Okay, so yeah, this was all that you need to know. Now let me take you to the Visual Studio Code and let's try to code all of this. Okay, let's try to learn, or let's get familiar with different data types in C++. Okay, so I'll create a file. Okay, data types.c++. Okay, now yeah, so it is visible, so let's write the program. Okay, 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 so let's say not see out actually, if we want to create or declare an integer variable, we'll write int, we give it a name, let's say x is equals to 5, and lastly we will end it with semicolon. Okay, so this is how we store an integer variable. We store a integer value inside a variable. Okay, if we wish to store a string value, so string, we give it the name of the variable. Let's say I give it the name as x. No, we cannot give the same name. Okay, so once the name is used, we cannot use it further. Okay, so string y is equals to, let's say I store my name Priyansh. Okay, so this is how we declare a string variable, okay, of type y, okay, of name, having name y and having value Priyansh. Okay, and I already told you that string values are stored within double quotes. Okay, even if I give it an integer value, still it will be considered as a string. Okay, now character is denoted by char. Let's say I name it z, okay, and I store capital A. Okay, so I already told you that a character is always enclosed within the single quotes. Okay, now to store boolean values, we write bool, we give the name. Let's say I give it is he tall. Okay, is equals to let's say I give it 0. Okay, 0 signifies false, and we can also write false here. Okay, and for true we can write true here, and we can also write 1. Okay, so this implies true only. Finally, to store the decimal values, we create float. Okay, so float, let's say y or f, okay, is equals to 10.56. I store 10.56 here. Okay, so yeah, now if I try to print any of the variable, let's say I try to print x. Okay, so x gets printed on the screen. I already told you what cout does. Cout just helps in printing the value of the variable. Okay, and if I, yeah, so let's try to execute the program. It gives us 5 as the value. Okay, now I forgot to tell you the use of this endl. Okay, so endl is nothing but the end line statement. Now it helps to end the line. Okay, so let's create another, let's write another statement. Let's try to print y. Okay, now if I try to execute this without, without using end line in the first case. Okay, let's say let's comment this. Okay, so if I try to print this, let's remove this. Okay, yeah, so if I try to print this again, let's clear the terminal first. Okay, if I try to print this, I get 5 because I'm only printing x right now. Okay, now what if I try to print y as well? Okay, okay, without using end line. Okay, now you'll see why I'm using end line. So if I try to print without using end line here, what happens is Priyanshu or Priyansh just comes after 5. Okay, it just gets printed after 5. So if I use end L here, what happens is the execution goes to the next line. So this y gets printed on the next line, or this string which gets printed after 5 is going to print on the next line. Let's see how. Okay, let's execute. So it gets printed on the next line. Why is it so? Because first the x gets printed, and then end line moves the execution to the next line. So execution goes to the next line, and then this string gets printed. Now same way, let's use end line here also. Okay, so let's say we try to print z here. Okay, z here. Let's print all the variables. Okay, so let's try to print is he. Okay, tall, and let's try to print f float value. Okay, let's remove this. Okay, let's see now what is the output. Okay, let's clear the terminal. Let's again execute this. So we get the output this way. So first of all, we get the value of x. Okay, which was 5. Okay, so we get the value of x. Then in the second statement, we get the value of y, which is this string. Okay, so this string gets printed on the second line. Then the execution again goes to the third line. In the third line, z gets printed, which is a. Okay, and then execution goes to the next line. Then is he tall gets printed. I have given is he tall the value as 1. Okay, so 1 gets printed, and finally f gets printed, which is 10.56. Okay, now what happens is there are only two values that a bool can store: true or false, or 0 and 1. Okay, 0 signifies false and 1 signifies true. So if we try to store any other integer values which is not 0, okay, so it will consider it as 1. Okay, so let's again try to execute it. So again 1 gets printed, whereas I have given the value as 11. So it considers the non zero values as 1 only. Okay, so yeah, this was all about the data types, different types of data types that we deal with. Okay, so these data types are used within the programs. I'll tell you how we can use these data types in order to do different things. Okay, and the things are going to be fun. Okay, so yeah, that was all about this lecture. So let's meet in the next lecture.